January 29th, 1945, 2:47 in the afternoon. Holtzheim, Belgium. James Parker walks around the corner of a snow-covered farmhouse and stops. His boots sink into fresh powder. His breath clouds in the frozen air. And 92 German soldiers are staring at him. Half of them hold weapons. The other half are reaching for rifles stacked in piles on the ground. 4 American soldiers kneel in the snow with their hands behind their heads. These Germans were prisoners 20 minutes ago. 80 of them captured during the assault on this village, guarded by 4 men because that's all Parker could spare. Now they're free. Now they're armed. Now they're organizing to attack Company C from the rear. A German officer strides forward. Hauptmann Klaus Richter, 38 years old, veteran of Poland and France and Russia. He shoves an MP-40 submachine gun into Parker's stomach. The metal barrel presses against frozen cloth. Richter's face is red with cold and rage. He screams something in German. Parker doesn't speak German, neither do any of the Americans. Richter screams again, louder. His face turns purple. Veins bulge in his neck. Parker looks at the 92 Germans, looks at his 4 disarmed soldiers, looks at the MP-40 pressed against his gut, and starts laughing. He can't stop. His shoulders shake. He bends forward. The laughter comes in waves. Richter's face twists with confusion, then fury. He screams louder. Parker laughs harder. What happens next takes less than 60 seconds. 21 Germans will die. The rest will throw down their weapons and surrender. And James Parker will earn the Medal of Honor for one of the most insane acts of combat in World War II. All because he couldn't stop laughing. But to understand why Parker laughed, to understand the man who stood there facing impossible odds with a gun in his stomach, we need to go back 29 years. Back to a steel town in Pennsylvania where a boy learned that size doesn't matter when you think faster than they react. Leonard James Parker was born August 12, 1916, in Braddock Township, Pennsylvania. A steel town, smokestacks and foundries lining the Monongahela River, 8 miles east of Pittsburgh. The air smelled like iron and coal smoke. The sound of drop hammers echoed through the valleys at all hours. Men worked the mills in 12-hour shifts, came home covered in soot and sweat, slept hard, and went back. Parker's father, Samuel, worked the blast furnaces. His mother, Rose, took in sewing. They lived in a narrow row house on Talbot Avenue, with walls so thin you could hear the neighbors breathing. James shared a room with his younger brother, Michael. 8 years between them. 8 years that made James more father than brother. The Great Depression hit when James was 13. The mills started closing. Samuel's shifts got cut to 3 days a week. Rose's sewing work dried up as people stopped buying new clothes and started patching old ones. The Parker family ate a lot of potato soup. James wore shoes with cardboard stuffed in the soles to cover the holes. He never complained. Complaining didn't fix anything. Michael was 5 years old then, too young to understand why there was never enough food. Too young to know that James was skipping meals so his little brother could eat. Michael just knew that James always took care of him, always made sure he was safe, always protected him. James graduated high school in 1934, 18 years old in the 5th year of the Depression. No money for college. Not that college was ever a possibility for kids from Braddock Township. You worked the mills or you worked the mines or you worked whatever job you could find, and you were grateful for it. James got hired at Morrison's Hardware on Braddock Avenue, stocking shelves, mixing paint, cutting keys, helping customers find what they needed. $7 a week. He was good at it. Quiet, competent, invisible. People came in with a problem. James found the solution. Never made a fuss about it. Just did the work. He stayed at Morrison's for 7 years. Same store, same job, same $7 a week that slowly climbed to 9, then 11. He gave most of it to his parents. Kept enough for car fare and the occasional picture show. Bought Michael new shoes when the old ones wore through. The years passed. James turned 21, 22, 23. Other young men got married, started families, moved away to find work in other cities. James stayed. Someone had to look after Michael. Someone had to help with the bills. That's what you did. That's what family meant. Then came the summer of 1938. James was 22. Michael was 14. and 3 older boys decided they wanted Michael's lunch money. It happened on Talbot Avenue, 2 blocks from the Parker house. Michael was walking home from the corner store with a bottle of milk and a loaf of bread. 3 boys, 16 or 17 years old, blocked his path. Big kids, working class tough. The kind who learned early that the world took from you unless you took first. The leader, a thick-shouldered kid named Donnie Kowalski, shoved Michael against a brick wall. The milk bottle fell. White liquid spread across the sidewalk. Kowalski told Michael to empty his pockets. Michael had 35 cents. His mother had given it to him that morning with instructions to bring back change. Michael said no. Kowalski hit him. Not hard enough to do real damage, but hard enough to teach a lesson. Michael's nose bled. The other 2 boys laughed. Kowalski reached for Michael's pockets. That's when James came around the corner. He'd been walking home from Morrison's Hardware. His shift had ended at 6. He had paint under his fingernails and dust on his work clothes. He was 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighed 135 pounds. The 3 boys were all bigger than him. Kowalski had 6 inches and 40 pounds on James Parker. James didn't run, didn't shout, didn't try to fight. He walked up to the 3 boys and asked them to step away from his brother. Kowalski laughed, told James to mind his own business, or he'd get the same treatment. The other 2 boys moved to flank James, standard tactics. Surround the target, make him think about which direction the next punch is coming from, wait for him to panic. James didn't panic. His brain was working, fast, calculating. He'd spent 7 years at Morrison's Hardware learning every product in that store, knew what each one did, knew how they reacted, knew which ones were dangerous. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small bottle. Paint thinner. He'd been carrying it home to clean some brushes for a side job. Turpentine and mineral spirits, highly flammable. The fumes alone could make you dizzy. James uncapped the bottle, splashed the contents toward the 3 boys. The liquid caught Kowalski across the face and chest. The fumes hit instantly. Kowalski stumbled back, coughing, eyes watering. The chemical smell was overwhelming. Then James pulled out a book of matches, struck one, let it burn for a second, held it up where everyone could see the flame. He didn't say anything, didn't need to. The threat was clear. Paint thinner soaks into fabric. Paint thinner burns. 1 drop match and Kowalski becomes a torch. The 3 boys ran, scattered in 3 different directions, left Michael bleeding against the wall, and James standing there with a lit match and an empty bottle. James dropped the match, stepped on it, put the bottle back in his pocket, helped Michael to his feet, walked him home, cleaned up his nose, didn't tell their parents what happened, no point worrying them. That night, sitting on the edge of Michael's bed, James explained something important, a lesson that would stay with Michael for the rest of his life, would stay with James through everything that came after. Size doesn't matter when you think faster than they react. James wasn't big, wasn't strong, wasn't trained to fight, but he'd looked at the situation, calculated the options, and found a solution. The 3 boys never bothered Michael again. Word got around the neighborhood. Don't mess with the Parker kid. His brother's crazy. James wasn't crazy. He just understood something fundamental. Fear is a tool. You can run from it, let it own you, let it dictate your choices, or you can walk toward it. Pick it up. Use it against the people who think they can make you afraid. That was 1938. James Parker was 22 years old, working at a hardware store, taking care of his family, living a small, quiet, invisible life in a steel town where nothing much ever happened. Then came June 1941. War had been raging across Europe for 2 years. Germany had conquered Poland, France, Belgium, Holland, Denmark, Norway. The Luftwaffe was bombing London every night. Japan was carving through China. The Soviet Union had been invaded. Millions were dying, and America was still at peace, still debating whether this was our fight, still hoping the ocean would keep us safe. Congress extended the Selective Service Act, the draft. Every able-bodied man between 18 and 45 had to register. Numbers were drawn. If your number came up, you served. No exceptions. No excuses. James Parker's number came up on June 18, 1941. He reported to the induction center in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. 24 years old, 5 feet 5 inches tall, 140 pounds. The medical examiner looked at him and probably thought clerk duty, office work, supply chain. Far from the fighting. They were wrong. James Parker volunteered for the paratroopers. Nobody at the induction center could believe it. The recruiting sergeant actually asked him twice if he understood what he was signing up for. Airborne forces, parachute infantry, jumping out of aircraft at 1,200 feet to land behind enemy lines and fight surrounded. The most dangerous duty in the American military, volunteers only, because the brass knew that most men would refuse the assignment if ordered. The washout rate during training was 50%. Half the men who started airborne school never finished. The physical requirements were brutal. The psychological pressure was worse. You had to overcome every survival instinct in your body. Every time you stepped out of that aircraft, your brain screamed at you to grab the doorframe and hold on. The ground was a long way down. The parachute was just fabric and cord and faith. Why would a 24-year-old hardware store clerk volunteer for that? James went home that night to tell his family. His mother cried. His father shook his hand and said nothing. Michael, 16 years old now, asked the question everyone was thinking. "You scared, Jimmy?" James looked at his younger brother, the kid he'd protected for 16 years, the kid who'd learned from James that you don't run from hard things. "Terrified," James said, "which is why I'm doing it." Michael didn't understand. Fear was the reason you didn't do something. That was common sense. That was survival. But James explained it the way he'd explained the paint thinner incident 3 years earlier. Fear's a tool, Michael. You run from it, it owns you. It makes your decisions. It puts limits on what you think you can do. But if you walk toward it, if you pick it up and carry it with you, then you own it. And once you own it, it can't stop you. Michael asked what James was afraid of. What fear was he walking toward? "Everything," James said. "I'm afraid of heights, afraid of pain, afraid of dying, afraid of watching other men die, afraid I won't be good enough when it matters. So I'm going to jump out of airplanes and learn to fight and see if I can turn all that fear into something useful." That's why James Parker volunteered for the paratroopers. Not because he was brave, because he was terrified and wanted to see what happened when you stopped running. He reported to Fort Benning, Georgia in July 1941, Camp Tocoa, airborne training. It was exactly as brutal as advertised. 5 weeks of training, 168 hours of running, jumping, climbing, falling. Physical conditioning designed to break your body and see if your mind could push it back together. The instructors were professional sadists. They knew that half these men would wash out and they wanted it to happen fast. Better to quit in training than freeze up in combat and get your whole stick killed. Week 1 was running, miles of it, through Georgia heat and humidity, wearing boots and full packs. The instructors ran alongside, screaming about how paratroopers were elite, how you had to earn the right to jump, how most of these sorry candidates weren't good enough. Men collapsed, men vomited, men quit. By the end of week 1, 12 candidates had rung the bell and gone back to regular infantry. They were the smart ones, James thought. They recognized an impossible situation and made the rational choice. James kept running. His legs cramped, his lungs burned, his feet blistered inside his boots. He finished every mile, never the fastest, usually somewhere in the middle of the pack. But he finished. 3 other men from Company C became his training squad. They'd stick together through airborne school, through assignment to the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, through everything that came after. Brothers forged in shared misery. Thomas Sullivan, 19 years old, Brooklyn, New York. Irish Catholic family, 6 brothers, all of them working the docks or the construction sites. Sully was loud, always talking, always laughing, always running his mouth to cover up the fact that he was scared. 6 feet tall, broad shoulders, hands like hammers from years of dock work. He looked like a recruiting poster. He gambled constantly. Cards, dice, bets on anything. $5, says the old man, quits by Friday. That's what Sully said about James during week 1. Raymond Chen, 23 years old. Salinas, California, Chinese-American, pre-med student at Stanford until the money ran out and he had to drop out. Smart, quiet, thoughtful, combat medic. Chen saw the world like a chess game. always thinking 3 moves ahead. He was the only one who didn't make jokes about James being the oldest candidate in their training group. Chen watched James the way a scientist watches an experiment, studying, analyzing. "You watch everything," Chen said once. "Most men just look." Frank Willis, 29 years old, Chicago, married, 2 kids, company clerk. He'd wanted a safe posting, thought he could sit out the war doing paperwork, but the Army needed paratroopers more than it needed clerks. So Willis got volunteered. He was terrified every single day, hated the running, hated the jumps, hated the whole idea of combat. He was the kind of man who became brave, not because he wanted to, but because someone showed him he didn't have a choice. Week 2 was obstacle courses, rope climbs, wall scaling, horizontal ladders, building upper body strength because parachute landings were violent. You hit the ground at 20 feet per second. If you didn't know how to tuck and roll, you shattered bones. If your arms weren't strong enough to control the shroud lines, you landed in trees or buildings or rivers and died hanging from your harness. Week 3 was the towers, 34 feet high. You climbed to the top, hooked your static line to the overhead cable, and jumped. The cable arrested your fall after 15 feet. It simulated the opening shock of a real parachute. The first time you stepped off that platform, every nerve in your body screamed. The ground looked 1,000 miles away. The wind felt wrong. Your survival instinct demanded that you climb back down and find a sensible job. Willis froze on his first tower jump, stood at the edge for 20 minutes. The instructors screamed at him, called him a coward, told him to quit and stop wasting everyone's time. Willis stood there shaking. He couldn't make himself step off. James climbed up behind him, stood next to Willis on the platform, didn't touch him, didn't push him, just talked. "Your kids need you home," James said. "Only way home is through that door. You quit, they send you regular infantry. Regular infantry leads the assault. First wave. First ones killed. Paratroopers jump behind the lines. We survive because we're trained. So you can step off this platform or you can die on a beach somewhere. Your choice." Willis stepped off, landed hard, vomited. But he did it. He did it again the next day, and the next. By the end of week 3, Willis could jump without hesitation. Not because he stopped being afraid, because he learned that being afraid and jumping anyway was the only path forward. Week 4 was aircraft training, C-47 Skytrains, twin-engine transports. You loaded in through the side door, 20 men per stick, sat on canvas benches facing each other. The engines were loud. The whole fuselage vibrated. The smell of aviation fuel and hydraulic fluid and nervous sweat filled the cabin. Then the jump master opened the door, and the wind roared through, and you shuffled toward that opening in a line. The first time James Parker stood in that doorway at 1,200 feet, his stomach dropped. The ground was impossibly far below. The slipstream tore at his face. The static line attached to the overhead cable looked far too thin. The parachute on his back felt far too small. Every calculation his brain could make said this was suicide. Then the jump master slapped his shoulder and James stepped out. The prop blast hit him like a truck, spun him, disoriented him. For one terrible second he was tumbling, falling, disconnected from anything solid. Then the static line pulled tight. The parachute deployed. The harness jerked against his shoulders and legs, and suddenly the world was quiet. He floated. The C-47 roared away above him. The ground approached slowly, steadily, inevitably. James learned to control his descent by pulling the shroud lines, learned to prepare for impact by bending his knees and keeping his feet together. Landed hard in a Georgia field, rolled, stood up, gathered his chute. He'd just jumped out of an airplane and survived. Sully landed 50 yards away, came running over, grinning like an idiot. He'd bet $5 that James would quit before jump week. James held out his hand. Sully pulled a crumpled 5 from his pocket and handed it over. "You got more guts in your little finger than I got in my whole ass," Sully said. Week 5 was graduation. They earned their jump wings, silver badges shaped like an open parachute with wings spread to either side. James pinned his wings on his uniform and looked at himself in the mirror. He didn't recognize the man looking back. 5 weeks ago, he'd been a hardware store clerk. Now he was a paratrooper, elite, trained to jump into combat and fight surrounded. They were assigned to Company C, 1st Battalion, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, the Red Devils. The 508th had just been activated. They were a new unit, untested, training for the invasion everyone knew was coming, but nobody would talk about. The 508th shipped to England in late 1943. They joined the 82nd Airborne Division, the All-Americans, veterans of Sicily and Italy, men who'd already jumped into combat, men who'd already killed and watched friends die. The 508th were the new guys. They had to prove themselves. By D-Day, James Parker was a squad leader, 12 men under his command. Not because he asked for it, because men followed him. Something about the way he moved, calm, steady, competent. When Parker gave an order, it made sense. When Parker said jump, you knew he'd already calculated the odds and decided it was survivable. Chen observed this phenomenon with his usual analytical detachment. You don't lead by talking, Chen said. You lead by being right. Men trust that. But first, James Parker had to survive Normandy. And Normandy would test every lesson he'd learned about fear and survival and thinking faster than the enemy reacts. Because on the night of June 6, 1944, James Parker was going to jump into France with 80 pounds of equipment strapped to his body, land 40 miles from his objective, break his ankle on impact, and somehow lead 18 lost paratroopers through 10 days behind enemy lines without losing a single man. That 40-mile walk would earn him the Silver Star. It would prove that speed of thought beats speed of fist, always. And it would set James Parker on a path that would lead, inevitably, to a frozen farmhouse in Belgium where he would face 92 armed Germans and laugh. But that comes later. First, he had to survive D-Day, June 6, 1944. 1:30 in the morning, over France, the C-47 shudders as flak explodes around it. Fragments ping off the fuselage like hail on a tin roof. James Parker stands in the stick, the line of paratroopers waiting to jump. 12 men from his squad plus 8 others from different companies. All of them loaded with equipment, rifle, ammunition, grenades, rations, medical kit, entrenching tool. 80 pounds strapped to bodies already heavy with fear. The aircraft is at 400 feet, far too low for a safe jump, but the pilot can't climb. German anti-aircraft fire is everywhere. Orange tracers arc through the darkness like angry fireflies. The men can hear the 80mm guns booming from the ground, can feel the concussion waves when shells explode close. The Normandy invasion involves 13,000 paratroopers from the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions. They're supposed to land behind Utah and Omaha beaches, secure bridges and crossroads, cut communication lines, prevent German reinforcements from reaching the coast, create chaos in the enemy rear. Nothing is going according to plan. The German anti-aircraft fire has scattered the formations. Planes are breaking pattern, diving to avoid flak, climbing too fast, slowing down, speeding up. Some aircraft are burning. Parker can see them through the small windows. C-47s with engines on fire, spiraling toward the ground, men jumping from the open doors into darkness, hoping their chutes deploy before impact. The jumpmaster yells over the engine noise. 2 minutes, get ready. Parker checks his gear one more time. M1A1 Thompson submachine gun, 6 30-round magazines, 4 Mark II fragmentation grenades, K-bar fighting knife, first aid kit, 2 days of rations, canteen, entrenching tool, map case, compass, everything he needs to fight and survive behind enemy lines. Behind him, Sully is sweating despite the cold. Chen looks calm, almost meditative. Willis is praying silently, lips moving, eyes closed. The others are strangers, men from different squads, different companies. The formation has been so disrupted that sticks are mixed. Parker doesn't know half the men he's jumping with. The red light comes on. 1 minute. Parker moves to the door. The slipstream roars. Below him, France. Occupied France. Enemy territory in every direction. The ground is invisible in the darkness. No way to know what's down there. Fields, forests, rivers, buildings, Germans. You find out when you land. The green light flashes. Go. Parker jumps. The prop blast hits him, spins him. The static line jerks tight. The parachute deploys. The opening shock slams into his shoulders and groin. Then the world goes quiet except for the wind. He looks up. His canopy is fully inflated. Good. Sometimes the chutes malfunction. Twisted shroud lines, torn panels, tangled risers. If your main chute fails, you have maybe 3 seconds to deploy your reserve before you hit the ground at terminal velocity. Parker's chute is good. He looks down. Can't see the ground. Can't see anything. Just darkness and the faint shapes of other parachutes descending around him. Somewhere in that darkness, thousands of other Americans are landing. Some in their designated drop zones, most scattered across 50 miles of French countryside. Some are landing in the English Channel, pulled off course by wind, drowning under the weight of their equipment before they can cut free of their harnesses. Some are landing in flooded fields near the coast, trapped in water-filled bomb craters, unable to swim with 80 pounds of gear. Some are coming down in the middle of German camps, dying before they can release their parachute buckles. Parker lands hard. His right ankle twists on impact. The pain is immediate and catastrophic. Not a sprain. Something much worse. He can feel the bones shift under his skin, feel the grinding sensation as broken fragments move against each other. Compound fracture. The bone has broken through. He can feel the sharp edge pressing against the inside of his boot. He lies in the grass for 10 seconds, breathing through the pain, testing his limits. Can he stand? Can he walk? Can he fight? The pain is stunning. White-hot waves radiating up his leg. Every heartbeat sends a fresh pulse of agony through the shattered bone. This is the kind of injury that ends your war. This is the kind of injury that gets you evacuated to a field hospital, surgery, months of recovery, medical discharge. Parker stands up. The pain nearly drops him. He bites down on a scream. Puts weight on the ankle. The broken bone grinds. His vision goes gray at the edges. But he can walk. It will be agony. Every step will feel like the bone is tearing through muscle and tendon. But he can walk. And if he can walk, he can fight. And that's all that matters. He cuts away his parachute harness, buries the chute in a hedgerow, pulls out his compass, checks his position as best he can in the darkness. He's supposed to be near Sainte-Mère-Église, the primary drop zone for the 5 or 8th. He can hear fighting in the distance. Small arms fire, grenades, the distinctive sound of German MG-42 machine guns. Fast, ripping bursts that sound like tearing cloth. But the fighting sounds far away. Miles, maybe. Parker is not near his drop zone. He's somewhere in the middle of German-occupied Normandy with a broken ankle and no idea where the rest of his unit landed. He needs to find other Americans. Needs to link up with friendly forces. Solo survival is possible, but stupid. You need a team. You need people watching different directions. You need someone to cover you while you sleep. You need someone to help if you get wounded worse than you already are. Parker starts walking. Every step is torture. The broken bone shifts, grinds, sends electric shocks of pain up his spine. He wants to scream, wants to sit down and wait for daylight and hope someone finds him. But daylight means German patrols. Daylight means getting captured or killed. Darkness is safety. Darkness is movement. He walks for an hour, finds a road, avoids it. Roads mean Germans. Roads mean checkpoints and patrols and mechanized units. Parker stays in the fields and hedgerows, moving slowly, listening, watching. At Auto 300 hours, he finds 2 paratroopers from the 101st Airborne. They're lost, separated from their units, looking for anyone who knows where they are. Parker doesn't know where they are either, but 3 men are better than 1. They move together. By dawn, Parker has collected 6 more lost paratroopers. Men from different companies, different regiments, different divisions. All of them scattered by the chaotic drop. All of them looking for leadership. Parker gives it to them. Doesn't ask, doesn't explain. Just starts organizing. Establishes a rally point, posts security, checks ammunition and supplies. Makes a plan. They're 40 miles from where they're supposed to be. 40 miles of German-held territory. They need to link up with the main American forces pushing inland from the beaches. That means moving at night, hiding during the day, avoiding German patrols, fighting only when necessary. Over the next 3 days, Parker collects more men. By June 9th, he has 18 paratroopers. Chen finds him on the second day, sees Parker's ankle, sees the way he's limping, sees the pain in his face. "You need evacuation," Chen says. "That ankle's broken, compound fracture. I can see the bone through your boot. You need surgery." Parker looks at his ankle. The boot is dark with blood. The leather is stretched tight over swelling. Every step feels like someone is driving a railroad spike through his leg. "Tape it," Parker says. "Cut the boot open so the swelling doesn't cut off circulation." "Give me whatever you've got for pain. We keep moving," Chen argues. "This is insane. This is how you lose the leg. Infection, gangrene, amputation. Parker needs a field hospital. Parker needs a doctor. Parker needs to stop walking on a broken ankle." "You're a PFC," Parker says quietly. "I'm a staff sergeant. I'm ordering you to tape it." Chen stares at him, recognizes something in Parker's eyes. Not stubbornness, not bravado, just absolute refusal to quit. Chen has seen that look before in men who do impossible things. Men who don't survive because they're lucky. Men who survive because they will themselves to keep going when every rational calculation says they should stop. Chen tapes the ankle, cuts the boot open, gives Parker sulfa powder and aspirin. It's not enough, not even close. But it's what they have. Sully finds them on June 10th. He's with 4 other men from Company C. They've been moving toward the sound of American artillery, hoping to reach the beaches, hoping to find the division. Sully sees Parker and grins. "Jesus, Gramps, you look like death." The nickname sticks. Parker is 27 years old, ancient by paratrooper standards. Most of these men are 19, 20, 21. To them, Parker is the old man, Gramps. They say it with affection, with respect, because Parker is leading them through hell and getting them home alive. For 10 days, Parker leads this group through German-held territory. 18 men, different units, different backgrounds, all of them trusting a 5'5" hardware store clerk with a broken ankle to get them through. They move at night, travel in tactical formation. Parker insists on walking point despite his injury, putting himself in the most dangerous position. The point man is first contact if you run into the enemy. Point man gets shot first. But Parker knows terrain and tactics better than any of them. If they're going to walk into an ambush, he wants to be the one who sees it coming. During the day they hide. Barns, forests, abandoned buildings, hedgerows. France is a patchwork of small fields separated by thick hedgerows, ancient earth walls topped with dense vegetation. Perfect for defense, nightmare for attackers. The Germans have turned Normandy into a fortress. Every hedgerow is a potential ambush point. On June 12th, they encounter a German patrol. 6 soldiers moving along a dirt road, rifles slung, talking casually, not expecting contact. The Americans are hidden in a hedgerow 30 yards away. Perfect ambush position. Sully wants to fight, whispers to Parker. "We can take them. 6 against 18. We have surprise. We can wipe them out." Parker shakes his head, says nothing, just watches the Germans pass, lets them walk away. After they're gone, Sully argues. "We could have killed them. 6 fewer Germans, 6 more rifles, ammunition, maybe rations, and lost 3 men doing it," Parker says. "Maybe 4. Germans are trained. They're veterans. They know how to fight. We engage, someone on our side gets killed. We're not here to fight patrols. We're here to reach our objective. Mission before glory. It's a lesson the men learn over and over. Parker fights only when necessary, only when the tactical situation favors him, only when avoiding combat would cost more than engaging. He's not interested in heroics, not interested in body counts. He's interested in bringing his men home alive. June 14th. They need to cross a canal. The bridge is guarded by Germans. 12 soldiers, 2 machine gun positions, sandbags and barbed wire. Impossible to cross without being seen. Chen suggests going around, adding 2 days to their route but avoiding the fight. Parker considers it, looks at the bridge, looks at his men, They're exhausted, running on empty. 2 more days and they'll start making mistakes. Fatigue kills as surely as bullets. We cross tonight, Parker says. He plans the assault, sends Sully ahead to scout, identifies weak points. The German guards rotate every 4 hours. During the rotation, there's a 60-second window when positions are understaffed. Men moving, weapons unslung, attention divided. They wait for the rotation. Earworm 200 hours. Parker leads 3 men forward. Chen, Sully, Willis. The others provide overwatch, ready to provide covering fire if things go wrong. Parker moves like a ghost, even with the broken ankle, even with the pain that never stops. He's learned to ignore it, learned to wall it off in some corner of his mind where it can scream all at once. He has work to do. They reach the German sentry position. 1 guard is awake. The others are sleeping. The relief hasn't arrived yet. Perfect timing. Parker comes up behind the sentry, K-bar knife in hand. 1 motion. Hand over mouth, blade through the ribs, upward thrust into the heart. The sentry dies without a sound. They move to the machine gun nests. Chen and Sully each take 1. Grenades, explosive death in the darkness. The sleeping Germans wake up dying. The relief guards hear the explosions and come running. Parker and Willis cut them down with Thompson fire. 12 Germans dead. 0 American casualties. They secure the bridge. Hold it for 2 hours. Let other scattered American groups cross. At least 40 men use that bridge to reach Allied lines. Parker doesn't wait for thanks. Just moves on. Still 40 miles from safety. Still leading 18 men through enemy territory. June 15th. They're moving through a flooded field. The Germans have destroyed the drainage system. Water is waist deep. Cold. Moving through it is exhausting. The current pulls at your legs. The bottom is soft mud that sucks at your boots. One of the privates, Eddie Morrison, 19 years old from Georgia, starts to go under. His equipment is too heavy. He's too tired. He slips, goes under the water, can't get his footing. The weight of his gear pulls him down. He's drowning in 4 feet of water. Chen grabs him, pulls his head up, but Morrison is panicking, thrashing, dead weight. Chen can't hold him and swim at the same time. They're both going under. Parker reaches them. Doesn't think, just reacts. Grabs Morrison's harness, plants his feet despite the broken ankle grinding in the mud. Lifts. The pain is indescribable. Something tears in his leg, but he gets Morrison's head above water, gets him breathing. Chen cuts away Morrison's pack, lightens the load. Together they drag him across the flooded field. Morrison survives. Parker's ankle is worse. The bone has shifted again. Chen can feel it through the torn boot. This is beyond field medicine now. This is surgical intervention or lose the leg. Parker keeps walking. June 17th. They reach American lines. All 18 men. 10 days behind enemy lines, 40 miles through German territory. Not 1 casualty, not 1 man left behind. The battalion commander stares at Parker in disbelief. You walked 40 miles on a broken ankle? Parker says nothing, just sways slightly. The adrenaline that's been keeping him upright for 10 days is finally wearing off. His vision is starting to tunnel. His leg is infected. He can smell it. The sweet, rotten smell of tissue dying. Chen testifies for the Silver Star recommendation. He took point every day despite his injury. He carried Private Morrison's pack the last 3 miles. He made decisions that saved all our lives. Without him, we don't make it. They evacuate Parker to a field hospital. The doctors look at his ankle and shake their heads. 10 days walking on a compound fracture. The bone is infected. The surrounding tissue is necrotic. They talk about amputation. Talk about how lucky he is that the infection hasn't spread to his bloodstream yet. Blood poisoning, sepsis, death. Parker refuses amputation. They dose him with sulfa drugs, new antibiotics, experimental but effective. They cut away the dead tissue, reset the bone, immobilize his leg in a cast. Tell him his war is over. Tell him he's going home. Parker tells them he's staying. As soon as the leg heals enough to walk, he's going back to Company C. Back to his men. Back to the war. The doctors think he's insane. But Parker has learned something during those 10 days in Normandy. Something about himself. Something about fear and pain and the human capacity to endure. He learned that the body quits before the mind does. That agony is just sensation. That you can walk through hell if you refuse to stop walking. They award him the Silver Star, third highest combat decoration, plus a Bronze Star for meritorious service, plus his first Purple Heart. Parker pins the medals on his uniform and barely looks at them. Medals don't matter. Bringing men home matters. By September, his ankle has healed enough to walk. The doctors clear him for duty with restrictions. No jumping, no combat, desk duty only. Parker ignores the restrictions, reports back to Company C. They need squad leaders. They need men who know how to fight. Parker is going back to the war, and the war is going back to Holland. September 17th, 1944. Holland, Operation Market Garden, the largest airborne assault in history. 35,000 paratroopers dropping into the Netherlands to capture a series of bridges across the Rhine. British, American, Polish forces all jumping together. If it works, the Allies will be in Germany by Christmas. The war will be over. Field Marshal Montgomery's plan is ambitious, maybe too ambitious. The paratroopers have to capture and hold 7 bridges across 64 miles of Dutch territory. Ground forces will race up a single highway to link up with them. Everything depends on speed, on surprise, on nothing going wrong. Everything goes wrong. The British 1st Airborne Division lands at Arnhem, the furthest bridge. They're surrounded by SS Panzer divisions that weren't supposed to be there. For 9 days, they fight and die in the streets. Only 2,000 of 10,000 men make it out. A bridge too far enters military history as a cautionary tale about overreach. But James Parker doesn't know about the big picture. He only knows his mission. Support the landings, secure the drop zones, kill Germans. The jump into Holland is nothing like Normandy. The weather is perfect. Clear skies, no wind. The formations hold together. The C-47s fly at proper altitude. The anti-aircraft fire is light. Parker's ankle holds up. He lands, tucks, rolls, comes up running. No injury, no pain beyond the constant ache he's learned to live with. Company C secures their drop zone within 2 hours. By the book. Textbook assault. Resistance is light. The Germans weren't expecting an attack here. The 508th has achieved complete surprise. Mission accomplished. Parker's platoon digs in to hold the drop zone. Wait for the gliders bringing heavy equipment. Wait for orders. Standard operating procedure. Then Parker hears it. The sound of anti-aircraft guns, 20mm flak cannons, firing at the incoming gliders. He watches a glider explode in midair, watches it disintegrate, watches men and equipment tumble from the sky like broken toys. 18 men dead in seconds. Parker looks toward the sound of the guns. 3 kilometers away, high ground near the village of Vauxhall, 3 German 20mm flak guns, dug in, camouflaged, protected by security teams. Maybe 22 German soldiers total, and they're massacring the glider forces. Chen is next to Parker, watching the same thing. Not our mission, Chen says. CO ordered us to hold the drop zone. Those guns aren't our problem. Parker watches another glider get hit, watches it spiral down trailing smoke, watches it crash into a field. No survivors, more men dead, more equipment lost. The invasion needs those gliders, needs the jeeps and artillery pieces and ammunition they carry. Parker thinks about his brother Michael, 16 years old. You never walk away when someone needs help, Jimmy. That's what Michael said after the paint thinner incident, after Parker saved him from the 3 bullies. You see someone in trouble, you help. Parker makes a decision. It's the wrong decision tactically. It violates orders. It puts his men at risk for a mission that isn't theirs. But Parker can't watch men die when he has the ability to stop it. Sully, Chen, Willis, Parker says. We're taking those guns, Chen argues. This is crazy. We're supposed to hold the drop zone. The CO will court-martial you. We could all get killed. Parker looks at Chen. Says the thing that's been driving him since Normandy, since he walked 40 miles on a broken ankle, since he learned that the body quits before the mind does, since he decided that fear is a tool you use, not something that uses you. Those men are dying, Parker says. We can stop it. That's enough. He leaves his platoon under Corporal Harris, 30 years old from Texas, solid NCO. Harris can hold the drop zone. Parker takes 3 men and moves toward the sound of the guns. 3 men to assault a fortified position defended by 22 Germans? Standard military doctrine says you need a 3-to-1 advantage to assault a prepared position. Parker has the opposite. He's outnumbered 7-to-1. He attacks anyway. The approach takes an hour. Low crawl through Dutch tulip fields. The flowers are blooming, red and yellow and white. Beautiful. Parker and his men crawl through beauty toward violence. That's what war is. Horror occurring in places that don't deserve it. They reach the gun positions. Parker does reconnaissance. Counts the defenders. 22 Germans. 4 men per gun crew. 10 soldiers providing security. Good positions. Sandbags and earthworks. Machine gun nests covering the approaches. Interlocking fields of fire. Professional setup. These aren't garrison troops. These are combat veterans who know their business. Sully looks at the German positions and then at Parker. "This is suicide math," he whispers. Parker nods. "Only if they see us coming." He plans the assault. Willis will provide suppressing fire with the Browning automatic rifle, heavy sustained fire to pin down the security team, keep them from maneuvering. Chen will grenade the first gun crew and clear it with Thompson fire. Sully will take the second gun the same way. Parker will handle the third gun and any Germans who try to rally. It's a terrible plan. So many things can go wrong, but it's the only plan that gives them a chance. They attack at dusk. Willis opens fire first. The bar chatters. 20-round magazine emptying in seconds. Germans go down. The security team scatters. Tries to return fire but can't locate the source. Willis is firing from a concealed position. The Germans are shooting at muzzle flash. Chen throws 2 grenades. Both are perfect. One lands in the first gun position. The other bounces off a sandbag and drops exactly where it needs to be. The explosions are simultaneous. The first gun crew dies instantly. Chen rushes forward with his Thompson. Finishes anyone still moving. Sully hesitates. Just for a second. The second gun crew has seen Chen's assault. They're turning the flak gun toward the American positions. One burst from a 20mm cannon will cut a man in half. Sully knows this. Freezes. Parker covers him. Screams at him. "Move, Sully! Move now!" Sully moves. Throws his grenades. They're off target. One hits dirt 10 feet short. The other overshoots. But the explosions are close enough to stun the gun crew. Gives Sully time to close distance. He empties his Thompson into the second gun position. 5 Germans dead. Parker reaches the third gun. The crew has their hands on the weapon. They're swinging it around to engage Parker. He's 10 yards away. No time for grenades, no time for anything but speed. He fires the Thompson from the hip, walks the rounds across the gun position. Kills 3 of the 4 crew members. The 4th, a German Feldwebel, a sergeant, comes at him with a rifle and bayonet. Hand-to-hand fight. The German is bigger, younger, stronger, but Parker is faster. Has been fighting since he was 22 years old against 3 boys bigger than him. Has learned that speed of thought beats speed of fist, always. The German thrusts with the bayonet. Parker deflects. Steps inside the German's reach. Drives his own bayonet upward under the ribs. Finds the heart. The German's eyes go wide. He drops. Parker pulls the blade free. Moves on. 22 Germans dead or wounded. 3 Americans alive. The guns are silent. The gliders land safely. Parker stands among the bodies, breathing hard, looking at what they've done, the tactical insanity of it. 3 men assaulting a fortified position. Winning because they moved faster than the Germans could react, because they accepted risk that no rational person would accept. Sully is vomiting behind a sandbag. "I froze," he says. "I almost got you killed." "I'm sorry, Gramps. I'm so sorry." Parker walks over to him, puts a hand on his shoulder. "You moved when I told you. That's all that matters. Fear's a tool, Sully. You used it, made you careful, made you think. You did fine." Chen is stitching a bayonet wound on Parker's forearm. Shallow, not serious. "You collect scars like stamps," Chen says. Willis just stares at the dead Germans. "We killed 22 men." His voice is quiet, shocked. Parker looks at the gliders landing safely in the distance and saved 100. That's the math that matters. They return to the drop zone. The company commander is waiting. He's furious. Parker disobeyed direct orders, left his position, took men on an unauthorized mission, engaged the enemy without clearance. It's court-martial material. But then the glider pilots report. Tell about the 3 paratroopers who knocked out the flak guns. Tell about the lives saved. Tell about the equipment that made it through because those guns went silent. The company commander looks at Parker. You disobeyed orders and became a hero. I should court-martial you. Yes, sir, Parker says. But those men are alive. They award him the Distinguished Service Cross, second highest decoration for valor. 1 step below the Medal of Honor. Parker's second major decoration. Most soldiers who earn even 1 are considered heroes for life. Parker barely acknowledges it. The war continues. Operation Market Garden fails. The British at Arnhem are destroyed. But the 508th accomplishes its objectives. The bridges at Nijmegen are captured. The ground forces link up. The operation is a strategic failure, but a tactical success in the American sector. Parker fights through the rest of Holland. Company C takes casualties. Men die. Men get wounded. Men get evacuated. Parker stays, leading his platoon, teaching his men to survive, showing them that fear is just a tool. By November, they're pulled off the line, sent to a rest area, hot food, clean uniforms, sleep in actual beds. The men think they're done fighting for a while, think they'll get a few weeks to recover. They're wrong. December 16th, 1944, the Germans launched their last desperate offensive, the Bulge. 3 German armies, 400,000 men, 1,400 tanks, 1,900 artillery pieces. They crashed through the American lines in the Ardennes forest at dawn, aiming for the port of Antwerp. Hitler's plan is insane but almost works. Split the Allied armies, capture Antwerp, force a negotiated peace in the West so Germany can focus on the Soviets in the East. For the Americans, it's a nightmare. The offensive hits thinly held sectors manned by green troops and exhausted veterans pulled off the line to rest. Entire divisions crumble. Thousands of soldiers surrender. The German advance creates a bulge 50 miles deep in the Allied lines. The Battle of the Bulge, the largest battle the American Army will fight in World War II. 89,000 American casualties before it's over. The 82nd Airborne gets emergency deployment orders. Pack up, move out, get to the Ardennes, stop the German advance. They deploy in trucks. 15-mile march through waist-deep snow. The weather is brutal, 5 degrees below zero, worst winter in 50 years. Men freeze to death in their foxholes. Weapons jam. Vehicles won't start. The cold is as deadly as the Germans. Willis has frostbite developing in his feet. Can't feel his toes. Can't feel his legs. I don't know if I can keep walking, he tells Parker. You can, Parker says. You keep walking or you die. Simple math. Chen is treating hypothermia cases, men who've lost the ability to regulate their body temperature, shivering uncontrollably, slurring their words, irrational behavior. Chen does what he can with the limited supplies they have, shares his own rations, his own body heat, keeps men alive through competence and willpower. Sully makes dark jokes. At least the Germans can't see us shaking. They'll think it's the cold. Nobody laughs. They're too cold and too scared and too tired. Parker rotates the point position every 30 minutes, shares his rations, keeps moving, shows his men that if he can do it, they can do it. Leadership by example. The oldest method, the most effective. They reach the Ardennes on December 18th, 2 days into the German offensive. The situation is chaos. American units are scattered. Communications are disrupted. Nobody knows where the Germans are. Nobody knows where friendly forces are. It's Normandy all over again except colder and deadlier. Then came Malmedy, December 17th, 1944. 1 day into the offensive, Parker hears the story from a survivor, Private Johnny Mason, 21 years old from Tennessee. He tells it in a quiet voice while Chen stitches a shrapnel wound in his shoulder. A convoy from the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion ran into Kampfgruppe Piper at the Bonnier Crossroads. SS Armored Battle Group. Mason's unit wasn't equipped to fight tanks. After a brief firefight, the order came down. Surrender. 113 Americans laid down their weapons, raised their hands. The Germans herded them into a farmer's field. Mason thought they were being moved to a POW camp. Standard procedure. Geneva Convention. Professional soldiers treating prisoners with respect. Then the machine guns opened fire. Mason's voice doesn't change when he describes this part. Flat. Emotionless. The way men talk about trauma when emotion would break them. They shot us like cattle. No warning. Just opened fire. I got hit in the shoulder. Fell. Played dead. Lay there 4 hours. He describes German soldiers walking among the bodies, checking for survivors, finishing wounded men with pistol shots to the head, laughing. The man next to Mason was crying for his mother. A German officer walked over, put a Luger to his head, pulled the trigger, smiled, walked away. Mason lay there, didn't move, didn't breathe loudly, didn't do anything that would draw attention. When darkness came, he crawled, 3 miles through snow, back to American lines. He was the 23rd survivor. 20 others would follow. 84 wouldn't. Parker listens to this story in silence. Sully is enraged, wants to shoot every SS prisoner they take. Chen argues against it, says that makes us like them. Willis is terrified, says he'll never surrender. Never. Parker says nothing for a long time, just sits there in the frozen foxhole thinking, processing, making calculations. Finally he speaks. His voice is quiet, but everyone listens. I won't surrender to Germans, Parker says. I'd rather die fighting. Sully looks at him. That's suicide, Gramps. Maybe, Parker says. But Malmedy taught me something. There are things worse than dying. Dying on your knees is one of them. It's a vow. Parker has decided, if he's ever in a situation where surrender is the only option, he won't take it. He'll fight until he wins or until they kill him. No middle ground, no prisoners, no hands up. This decision will matter very soon. But first, Parker has to survive 4 more weeks of the coldest, deadliest fighting of the war. Company C fights through the Ardennes. German attacks, counterattacks, artillery barrages, tank assaults. The casualties accumulate. Corporal Harris is killed on Christmas Eve. Direct hit from an 80mm shell. Parker finds pieces of him scattered across 50 yards of forest. Can't even recover the body. Just marks the location and moves on. 12 more men from Company C die by New Year's. Sully gets hit by shrapnel on January 8th. Shrapnel in his back and legs. Not life-threatening, but enough to get him evacuated. He argues with the medics. Wants to stay with the company. Wants to stay with Parker. The medics force him onto a stretcher. Sully reaches out as they carry him away. You keep your head down, Gramps. You come home, you hear me? Parker nods. Can't speak. Watches his best friend get carried away. Wonders if he'll ever see him again. Eddie Morrison gets evacuated 3 days later. The near drowning in Normandy damaged his lungs. The cold has triggered pneumonia. Chen saves his life with sulfa drugs, but Morrison needs a hospital. Real treatment. He's going home. Morrison grabs Parker's hand before they load him on the truck. You saved me twice, Sarge. Normandy and here, I owe you everything. Parker shakes his head. You don't owe me anything. You fought. You survived. That's all that matters. Go home. See your family. Live a good life. By mid-January, Company C has taken 60% casualties. 47 men left from a full-strength roster of 120. The company commander has been killed. The executive officer has been killed. The battalion needs someone to lead what's left of Company C. They promote Parker, acting company executive officer, second in command. It's too much responsibility for a staff sergeant, but there's nobody else. All the officers are dead or wounded. All the senior NCOs are gone. Parker is what they have. Parker is what they're stuck with. Parker will have to be enough. On January 20th, the battalion commander calls Parker to headquarters. They have a new mission. Capture the Belgian village of Holtzheim. Strategic crossroads. Germans are using it as a supply route. Take the village, cut the route, disrupt German logistics. Standard infantry assault. There's a problem. Company C doesn't have enough men. 47 soldiers to take a fortified village. They need more bodies. The battalion commander tells Parker to make do. Use what you have. Get creative. Parker looks at the roster, looks at his 47 exhausted, frozen, traumatized combat veterans, looks at the headquarters personnel standing nearby. Clerks, cooks, supply sergeants, radio operators. Men who haven't fired a shot in combat. Men who thought they'd sit out the war pushing papers. Parker makes a decision. The same kind of decision he made in Holland when he assaulted the flak guns. The kind of decision that violates common sense, but works anyway if you refuse to accept failure. He walks over to the headquarters tent. Inside are 28 rear echelon troops, going about their business, filing reports, cooking food, managing supplies, safe, comfortable, alive. You're all infantry now, Parker tells them. Grab your weapons. We're taking Holtzheim. They stare at him like he's insane. We're clerks, one of them says. We can't fight. You had basic training, Parker says. You know how to shoot. Today you're infantry. Today you learn what combat is. Move. Among them is Frank Morrison Jr., 19 years old, Georgia, company clerk, terrified. Frank's older brother Eddie had been with Parker in Normandy. Eddie saved from drowning in the flooded field. Eddie evacuated 2 weeks ago with pneumonia. Now Frank Jr. is here. Volunteered after D-Day to finish what his brother started. Never saw combat until today. Willis takes Frank Jr. aside, talks to him quietly. I was like you, Willis says. Scared. Thought I couldn't do it. Then Parker showed me how. Your brother Eddie was brave because Parker taught him to be. Now I'm teaching you. You stay close to me. Do what I do. You'll be fine. Chen organizes the clerks into fire teams, teaches them basic tactical movement. Parker watches and sees something remarkable. Willis, the man who froze on the jump tower. Willis, who was terrified every day of airborne training. Willis is now teaching others to be brave. Fear is a virus that spreads, but so is courage. Willis caught it from Parker. Now he's passing it on. They march to Holtzheim, 15 miles through a driving blizzard, temperatures well below freezing, German artillery harassing them from the flanks. The clerks struggle. They're not conditioned for this, not trained for this. Several want to quit, want to turn back, want to find a truck and ride instead of walk. Parker won't let them. Tells them stories as they march. Tells them about Normandy, about the 40-mile walk, about fighting on a broken ankle for 10 days, about bringing 18 men home alive. Shows them that if he could do that, they can walk 15 miles. If he could survive that, they can survive this. The clerks listen, start to believe, start to think maybe they can do this impossible thing. By the time they reach Holtzheim, they're not clerks anymore. They're soldiers, scared soldiers, inexperienced soldiers, but soldiers nonetheless. Parker organizes the assault. 2 fire teams clearing houses, 1 team providing support, the clerks providing base of fire, suppressing windows, keeping German heads down while the veterans move. It's a good plan, solid tactics, and it works. They take Holtzheim in 4 hours of brutal house-to-house fighting, urban combat, room clearing, grenades through windows, Thompson fire through doorways, Germans in every building, 15 houses, Germans in everyone, machine guns, rifles, Panzerfausts. But Company C and their clerk reinforcements are relentless, methodical, professional. They clear every house, kill or capture every German. Frank Morrison Jr. gets his first kill. Now, a German soldier appears in a doorway, rifle coming up. Morrison fires first. 3 shots, center mass. The German goes down. Morrison stares at the body, can't process what he's done, can't reconcile the act of killing with the person he thought he was. Parker comes up beside him. You did your job, Parker says. He was trying to kill you first. Don't think about it now. Think about it when you're 80, when this is over, when you're home. Think about it then. Not now. Morrison nods. Keeps moving, keeps fighting, because Parker said so, because Parker knows. They capture 30 Germans. Another platoon on the far side of town takes 50 more. 80 prisoners total. Company C has won. Holtzheim is secured. Not one American casualty. Perfect assault. Textbook operation. Parker's clerk army fought like veterans. But now they have a problem. 80 prisoners. And Parker can only spare 4 men to guard them. Willis, Chen, Morrison, Private Danny Cooper from Boston, 20 years old, solid kid. Everyone else is needed to clear the rest of the village. Scattered German soldiers who haven't surrendered yet, holdouts in cellars and attics. It will take hours to finish the job. Parker tells the 4 guards to hold the prisoners in the farmhouse yard. Keep them corralled. Keep them disarmed. Weapons are piled in the snow. Reinforcements will arrive soon. 30 minutes, maybe an hour. Just hold them until then. Willis nods. We got this, Sarge. Don't worry. Parker looks at his men. At Willis, who learned to be brave. At Chen, who's kept everyone alive with medicine and wisdom. At Morrison, who killed his first man an hour ago. At Cooper, who hasn't complained once in 3 months of frozen hell. Good men. Reliable men. They can handle 80 prisoners for an hour. Parker heads back into the village. Still work to do. Still Germans to kill or capture. He doesn't know what's about to happen behind him. Doesn't know that a German patrol is approaching the farmhouse. Doesn't know that in 20 minutes everything will go wrong. Doesn't know that he's about to face the moment he's been preparing for since he was 22 years old. And 3 boys tried to hurt his brother. The moment when size doesn't matter. When fear is a tool. When you think faster than they react or you die. The moment when James Parker will laugh at death. While Parker's clearing the far end of Holtzheim, a German patrol approaches the farmhouse. 12 men, maybe 15. It's hard to count in the blowing snow. They're wearing white winter camouflage capes over their uniforms. In the blizzard at a distance, they look almost identical to American troops in winter gear. The patrol is lost, cut off from their unit during the American assault, looking for friendly forces, looking for a way back to German lines. They see the farmhouse, see American guards, see what looks like a secure position. They get within 20 yards before Willis realizes something is wrong. The uniforms are wrong. The helmets are wrong. The weapons are wrong. These aren't Americans. These are Germans. And they're too close. Willis tries to raise his rifle. Too late. The German patrol commander, Lieutenant Becker, 28 years old, veteran of the Eastern Front, sees the recognition in Willis's eyes. Sees the moment Willis understands. Becker moves fast, rushed forward. Grabs Willis's rifle barrel, twists it away. 3 other Germans swarm Chen. One hits Chen with a rifle butt. Chen goes down hard, unconscious before he hits the snow. Morrison tries to surrender immediately, hands up. Don't kill us. Please don't kill us. Cooper fights for a second, gets punched in the face, goes down. The 4 Americans are disarmed and forced to their knees in less than 30 seconds. The 80 German prisoners see what's happening. See their captors become captives. See the reversal. They start shouting, cheering. The patrol cuts their bonds, gives them their weapons back. 80 prisoners plus 12 patrol members equals 92 armed Germans. Hauptmann Klaus Richter takes command. 38 years old, career officer, veteran of Poland, France, Russia. Richter is smart, experienced, professional. He doesn't waste time, doesn't celebrate, just starts organizing. Tactical assessment. Where is the American company? How many men? What are their positions? What weapons do they have? Willis refuses to talk. Richter doesn't torture him, doesn't threaten, just looks at Willis with the flat, dead eyes of a man who's killed 100 times and will kill 100 more without hesitation. Willis stays silent, but Richter doesn't need information from Willis. Richter can figure it out from observation. The American company is scattered through the village, clearing houses, separated into small teams, not expecting an attack from behind. If 92 Germans hit them now, it will be a massacre. The Americans will be caught in crossfire, killed in their own assault positions. Company C will be destroyed. Richter gives orders in rapid German. 30 men position machine guns on the high ground overlooking the village. 40 men form the main assault element. 22 stay as reserve and security. The plan is professional, efficient, deadly. In 5 minutes, they'll be ready to attack. In 10 minutes, Company C will be dead. Willis watches this happen with growing horror. "We're dead," he whispers to Morrison. "This is Malmedy. They're going to kill us. Then they're going to kill everyone." Morrison is crying, quiet tears freezing on his face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I failed. I let them take me." Chen regains consciousness, blood running down his face from where the rifle butt split his scalp. He looks at the situation. 92 Germans, 4 Americans captured. Company C about to be ambushed. The math is impossible. There's no scenario where this ends well. But Chen knows Parker will come to check on them eventually. Will walk into this without warning. Will be captured or killed. Chen's mind is working, trying to find a solution, trying to calculate odds, trying to see a path through impossible mathematics. There isn't one. This is checkmate. This is where brave men die, and there's nothing courage or training or willpower can do about it. Sometimes the enemy wins. Sometimes the math is just too bad. Then Parker rounds the corner of the farmhouse. He's coming to check on the guards. Routine. Making sure they're okay. Making sure the prisoners are secure. Making sure reinforcements have arrived. He's not expecting trouble. Not expecting anything except maybe Willis complaining about the cold. Parker walks around the corner and stops. His boots sink into fresh snow. His breath clouds in the frozen air. And 92 German soldiers are staring at him. The scene is surreal. His 4 guards are kneeling in the snow, hands bound behind their backs. The prisoners he captured an hour ago are standing everywhere, rifles in their hands, organizing for battle, machine gun teams setting up positions, officers giving orders, an entire German company assembling to destroy his men. Parker's brain processes this in fractions of a second. The tactical situation, the odds, the implications. 4 guards captured means the prisoners were freed by force. 92 armed Germans means a patrol found them and liberated the prisoners. Machine guns being positioned means they're preparing to attack Company C from the rear. His men are scattered through the village, vulnerable, unaware. If Parker doesn't stop this right now, everyone dies. Company C gets massacred. The clerks he turned into soldiers get killed in their first real fight. Willis and Chen and Morrison and Cooper get executed. Malmedy happens again, except this time Parker's here to watch it. The mathematics of survival are zero. There is no scenario where James Parker wins this fight. He's one man, they're 92. Half of them are armed. The other half are reaching for weapons. He has a Thompson submachine gun and 30 rounds. They have rifles and machine guns and grenades and numerical superiority that makes resistance mathematically impossible. The sensible thing is to surrender. The rational thing is to put his hands up, live to fight another day, become a prisoner of war. Survive in a POW camp until the war ends. Go home, see his brother, see his family, live. But Parker remembers Malmedy, remembers Private Johnny Mason's story. 84 Americans murdered in a field, shot like cattle, left to freeze in the snow. He remembers his vow, the promise he made to himself after hearing about the massacre. "I won't surrender to Germans. I'd rather die fighting." Hauptmann Richter spots Parker immediately, sees the first sergeant stripes on his sleeve, recognizes rank, recognizes a leader, recognizes a prize. Richter strides forward, confident, arrogant, victorious. He shoves his MP-40 submachine gun into Parker's stomach. The metal barrel presses against frozen cloth, the same way it did in the cold open. The same moment. The moment that will define James Parker's entire life. Richter screams something in German. "Ergeben Sie sich. Surrender. Drop your weapon. Hands up." The universal language of a man with a gun pointed at you. Parker doesn't speak German, has no idea what Richter is saying, just hears angry foreign words, sees a red face, sees veins bulging in a neck, sees fury and contempt and the absolute certainty of victory. Richter screams again, louder. "Ergeben Sie sich." His face turns purple. Parker looks around. 92 Germans. His 4 men captured and helpless. Machine guns being set up to kill his company. 1 MP-40 pressed against his stomach. 1 German officer screaming incomprehensibly. Parker's mind is working, fast. The way it worked when he was 22 and faced 3 bullies and had nothing but a bottle of paint thinner and a book of matches. The way it worked when he led 18 men through 40 miles of enemy territory on a broken ankle. The way it worked when he assaulted flak guns with 3 men against 22. Think faster than they react. That's the lesson. That's what his brother taught him. Size doesn't matter when you think faster. But there's no clever solution here. No paint thinner trick. No tactical flanking maneuver. This is pure mathematics. 92 versus 1. A gun in his stomach. His men already captured. The mission already failed. Parker has one play. The Thompson on his shoulder. 30 rounds. He can't kill 92 Germans with 30 rounds. Can't even kill half of them. But maybe he can create chaos. Maybe he can disrupt their attack long enough for Company C to realize something is wrong. Maybe he can buy his men time to escape. Maybe he can die in a way that means something instead of dying on his knees in the snow like the men at Malmedy. Maybe. Richter screams a third time. Face crimson, spit flying. Absolutely enraged that this American won't comply, won't drop his weapon, won't raise his hands, won't behave like a prisoner is supposed to behave. And James Parker starts laughing. He doesn't plan it, doesn't decide it. It just happens. Something about the absurdity of the moment. A German officer screaming in a language Parker doesn't understand. Expecting compliance? Expecting surrender? Expecting this American to do what every rational person would do when facing impossible odds. But Parker isn't rational anymore. The vow he made after Malmedy has disconnected his survival instinct from his decision-making process. He's already decided to die fighting. Already accepted that outcome. The fear that should be paralyzing him has been turned into a tool, a weapon, and the German officer screaming incomprehensibly strikes him as funny in a dark, terrible way. The laughter starts as a chuckle, then builds. Parker's shoulders shake. He bends forward slightly. The laughter comes in waves. He can't stop. Tries to stop. Can't. Something has broken loose inside him. Stress. Fear. The weight of 4 months of frozen combat. The weight of watching friends die. The weight of impossible decisions. It all comes out as laughter. Richter's face twists with confusion. Then fury. This isn't how prisoners behave. They beg. They plead. They comply. They don't stand there laughing while you shove a gun in their stomach. What is wrong with this American? Is he insane? Is he mocking us? Is he fearless or just broken? Richter screams louder, gestures with the MP40, trying to regain control of the situation, trying to make this American understand. Parker laughs harder, bends over, shoulders shaking, calls out between gasps. I don't understand what he's saying. I don't understand. Some of the German soldiers start laughing too. The tension is bizarre, surreal. Their officer is purple with rage and this American won't stop cackling. It's the strangest thing any of them have seen in years of combat. War makes men do terrible things, but this is something else. This is madness or courage, or both at once. Willis watches from his knees. His brain can't process what he's seeing. Gramps has lost his mind. There's no other explanation. The stress finally broke him. Chen watches differently. Chen sees something in Parker's eyes. Something calculating. The laughter looks genuine, but there's thought behind it. Strategy. Parker is buying time, confusing the enemy, creating an opening. Chen doesn't know what Parker is planning, but he knows Parker is planning something. Morrison just cries harder, thinks they're all going to die, thinks this is the end. For several critical seconds, Richter doesn't know what to do. He's fought Russians and Poles and French and Americans. He's taken hundreds of prisoners. They all behave the same way. Fear, resignation, compliance. This is new. This is outside his experience, and it throws him off balance. Parker uses those seconds, still appearing to laugh, still bent over, still looking helpless and crazy, but his hands are moving, slowly, carefully, reaching up toward the Thompson's submachine gun slung over his shoulder. The standard carrying position for paratroopers. Richter sees the movement, thinks this is good. Finally, the American is surrendering his weapon, getting control of himself, complying. Richter relaxes slightly, prepares to accept the Thompson, prepares to have another prisoner, another trophy. Parker's hand closes around the grip of the Thompson. He begins to unsling it, slowly, carefully, like a man who's given up, like a man who's surrendering. The laughter is fading, the shoulders are straightening. Everything about Parker's body language says defeated, beaten, done. Richter watches the Thompson come off Parker's shoulder, watches it move down, watches the American's hands handle the weapon like he's giving it away. Good. This is how it should be. This is how prisoners behave. Then James Parker moves, one motion, faster than thought. Faster than Richter can process. The Thompson that was moving down in surrender suddenly swings up. The barrel that was pointed at the ground suddenly points at Richter's chest. The trigger that was untouched suddenly gets squeezed. The M1A1 Thompson fires .45 ACP rounds at 600 per minute. At this range, each round hits like a sledgehammer. The bullets don't just wound, they destroy. They create massive temporary wound cavities. They transfer kinetic energy that tears tissue and shatters bone. A single .45 ACP round to the chest can drop a man instantly. Parker fires 9 rounds into Richter in less than 2 seconds. Richter's chest explodes. Ribs shatter. Lungs collapse. Heart ruptures. He's dead before his brain registers what happened. Dead before he can pull the trigger of his own weapon. Dead before he hits the ground. His body crumples like a puppet with cut strings. Blood sprays across the white snow. The MP-40 falls from his hands. His eyes are still wide with surprise. Parker doesn't stop. Can't stop. The moment he pulled the trigger, he committed to killing everyone or dying himself. There's no middle ground. No negotiation. No surrender. This is life or death, and the next 60 seconds will determine which one. He pivots left, still firing. The Thompson sprays an arc of lead across the Germans nearest to him, the men reaching for weapons, the men turning to react, the men who are too slow and too shocked and too surprised to fight back effectively. 7 Germans go down in the next 3 seconds. Headshots, chest shots, shots that kill instantly or destroy the ability to fight back. Men scream. Men fall. Blood sprays across snow. Brass casings tumble through the frozen air. Steam rising from ejection port. The 30-round magazine empties. 3 seconds of sustained full auto fire. Parker has killed or critically wounded 16 men in less than 5 seconds. But he's out of ammunition and surrounded by 76 Germans who are now recovering from shock and reaching for their weapons. This is the critical moment. A Thompson takes approximately 2 seconds to reload if you're practiced. If you've done it 10,000 times in training, if muscle memory has carved the motion into your nervous system, 2 seconds is forever in a firefight. 2 seconds is enough time for 76 Germans to kill 1 American. 2 seconds is the difference between legend and corpse. Parker's hands move on their own. No thought, no conscious decision, pure training. Pure repetition. The empty magazine drops away. His left hand is already pulling a fresh mag from his pouch. The magazine slides into the receiver. His right hand racks the bolt. The whole sequence takes 1.8 seconds, faster than the average human reaction time. The first German rifle comes up, a Kar 98K bolt action. The soldier aims at Parker's head, squeezes the trigger. The round cracks past Parker's ear. 6 inches to the left and Parker is dead. 6 inches and this story ends differently. But the round misses and Parker's Thompson is reloaded, and Parker is firing again before the German can cycle his bolt for a second shot. Parker kills the rifleman, kills 3 more Germans behind him. Keeps moving. Keeps firing. Never staying still. Movement is life. Static targets die. Parker learned that in Holland. Learned that in Normandy. You keep moving and you keep shooting, and you don't stop until they're all dead or you're dead. At the same time, he's screaming, "Pick up their weapons, pick up their weapons," screaming at his 4 captured guards, screaming at Willis and Chen and Morrison and Cooper, trying to get them into the fight, trying to turn 4 prisoners into 4 soldiers. Willis hears Parker's voice through the chaos. Here's the authority, the command, the absolute refusal to accept defeat. Willis's hands are still bound, but he rolls toward a dead German, grabs the Kar 98K rifle lying in the snow. Can't work the bolt with his hands tied, but he can swing the rifle like a club, smashes it into a German soldier turning toward him. The man goes down. Willis grabs the soldier's knife, cuts his own bonds. Now he has working hands. Now he has a rifle. Now he's fighting. Chen regains full consciousness. The world is spinning. His head is bleeding, but he's a combat medic and combat medics don't quit. He grabs an MP-40 from a corpse, starts firing, doesn't aim carefully, doesn't have time, just points in the general direction of Germans and squeezes the trigger. Full auto. 32 rounds in 3 seconds. 5 Germans go down. Chen's medical training is useless now. Pure combat. Pure survival. Morrison fumbles for a weapon. His hands are shaking so badly he can barely hold the rifle. Raises it, aims at a German soldier. Can't make himself pull the trigger. This is his second kill ever. He got the first one an hour ago and it traumatized him. Now he has to do it again. Has to kill or die. Willis screams at him, "Shoot! Morrison, shoot!" Morrison pulls the trigger. The German goes down. Morrison pulls the trigger again, and again, and again. Fires until the rifle is empty. Then grabs another one. Keeps shooting. Not thinking anymore. Just reacting. Just surviving. Cooper is already fighting. Didn't hesitate, didn't freeze. Just grabbed a weapon and started killing Germans. 20 years old from Boston. Solid kid. Turns out to be a solid soldier too. Now it's 5 Americans against 76 Germans. Still impossible odds. Still mathematically unwinnable. But the Germans are in chaos. Their commander is dead. The American who was laughing is now killing them. There are bodies everywhere. Blood everywhere. Screaming everywhere. Nobody gave orders for this. Nobody planned for this. Nobody knows what to do. Parker's second magazine runs dry. He doesn't reload. No time. A German soldier is rushing him with a rifle and bayonet. Parker drops the Thompson, draws his M1911 pistol. 7 rounds of .45 ACP. Different weapon, same caliber, same devastating stopping power. He shoots the rushing German twice. Center mass. The man drops. Parker shoots 2 more Germans trying to flank him. Shoots a German NCO trying to organize a counterattack. The pistol is louder than the Thompson. Each shot a massive concussive boom. Chen's MP-40 runs empty. He drops it. Grabs a Kar 98K. Works the bolt action. Shoots. Cycles the bolt. Shoots. Cycles. Shoots. Methodical. Mechanical. His hands are steady. His breathing is controlled. Chen has found the zone. The place where fear doesn't exist and training takes over, and you become a machine designed to put bullets into targets. Willis has killed 6 Germans. He's screaming. Not words, just raw sound. All the fear and anger and trauma of 4 months in frozen hell coming out in one sustained roar. He's not the clerk who froze on the jump tower anymore. He's not the man who couldn't fight. Parker taught him to be brave, and now he's braver than he ever imagined he could be. Morrison has stopped crying. His face is blank, empty. He's killed 4 men in the last 30 seconds. His mind has disconnected from his body. Autopilot. Survival mode, pull trigger, acquire target. Pull trigger, acquire target. No thought, no emotion, just action. The Germans try to organize, try to return coordinated fire, but they can't. Their command structure is gone. Richter is dead. The patrol commander Becker is dead. The senior NCOs are dead. Nobody knows who's in charge. Nobody knows what the plan is. Everyone is just trying not to die. Some Germans tried to set up the MG-42 machine gun. Get it positioned, get it loaded. One burst from an MG-42 will cut a man in half. We'll cut all 5 Americans in half. We'll end this fight in seconds. The gun team works fast. Professional. They almost make it. Parker sees them. Pivots. His M1911 is empty. He grabs a Sturmgewehr 44 assault rifle from a dead German officer. The STG-44, Germany's revolutionary assault rifle, 30 rounds of 7.90mm Kurz ammunition, select fire, effective range 300 meters. Parker flips the selector to full auto, fires the entire magazine into the machine gun position. The gun crew dies before they can fire a single round. 45 seconds have passed since Parker pulled the trigger on Richter. In those 45 seconds, 21 Germans have died. Most of them killed by Parker personally, the rest killed by Willis, Chen, Morrison, and Cooper. 21 corpses in the snow, 24 more wounded, screaming, bleeding, trying to crawl away. The remaining 47 Germans break. They've had enough. This was supposed to be easy. They had 92 men against 4 prisoners. They had numerical superiority and tactical advantage and the element of surprise. Now their commander is dead and men are dying everywhere, and this American who was laughing won't stop killing them. They throw down their weapons, hands up, kneeling in the snow, screaming the universal word for surrender. Kamerad, kamerad, friend, don't shoot, we give up, please don't kill us. Parker stands in the middle of the carnage. The STG-44 is empty. He drops it, draws a fresh magazine for his M19-111, reloads, racks the slide, 7 more rounds, points the pistol at the surrendering Germans, his fingers on the trigger, light pressure, 2 more pounds and the gun fires. For a long moment, nobody moves. The Germans think Parker is going to execute them. Think this is Malmedy in reverse. Think the American is going to kill them all, and they deserve it because they were about to do the same thing. Parker's finger stays on the trigger. Nobody breathes. The snow falls. The wind blows. Time stops. Then Parker lowers the pistol. Steps back. Doesn't holster it, just lowers it. Keeps it ready. Keeps watching the Germans, making sure they don't try anything. Making sure they understand that surrender means staying surrendered. Willis is vomiting behind a pile of bodies. The adrenaline is wearing off. The reality is setting in. We're alive. Jesus Christ. We're alive. Chen is checking himself for wounds, looking for holes he didn't notice during the fight, finds none. Looks at Parker. You're not hit. How are you not hit? Parker doesn't answer, just stands there, breathing hard, looking at what he's done, looking at 21 dead men, looking at the blood soaked into white snow, looking at the faces of men he killed. Young faces, old faces, scared faces, frozen in death. Morrison is laughing hysterically, the same kind of laughter Parker had before the shooting started. Stress laughter, trauma laughter. We're alive. We're alive. I can't believe we're alive. Cooper just sits down in the snow, says nothing, stares at nothing, processing, trying to understand what just happened, trying to reconcile the last 60 seconds with everything he thought he knew about combat and survival and the limits of human capability. Parker looks at his 4 men, looks at the 47 surrendering Germans, looks at the bodies, looks at the blood, looks at the absolute impossible chaos of the last minute, and he says the only thing that makes sense, the only thing that captures the insanity of what just occurred. That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Willis starts laughing through his vomit. You laughed at them, Gramps. You actually laughed. Chen manages a smile. His face is covered in blood. You used fear as a weapon. Confused them. Bought time. Tactical genius or complete insanity. I'm not sure which. Morrison just keeps laughing. Can't stop. Can't process. Can't do anything but laugh and cry and thank God and Parker and whoever is responsible for them still being alive. The rest of Company C arrives 10 minutes later, drawn by the sound of sustained gunfire. They find Parker standing guard over 47 prisoners, find 21 dead Germans, find 4 American guards who should be dead but aren't, find evidence of the most insane 60 seconds of combat any of them have ever heard of. The company commander stares at the scene, tries to understand. Parker, what the hell happened here? Willis tells the story, tells it while still shaking, still processing, still not quite believing it himself. The commander doesn't believe it either, can't believe it. 1 man against 92. Impossible odds, impossible outcome. Nobody survives that. Nobody wins that fight. But Parker did, because he laughed when he should have surrendered, because he fought when he should have died, because he refused to accept the mathematics of defeat. They marched the 47 German survivors to the rear. 8 guards this time, well-armed guards. Guards who stay alert. Nobody is taking chances anymore. The 21 dead are left for graves registration. The wounded are treated and evacuated. Company C secures Holtzheim. Mission accomplished. That night, the company commander writes a Medal of Honor recommendation, sits in a frozen farmhouse with a pencil and paper, and tries to capture what James Parker did in words that will make sense to people who weren't there. Tries to explain the unexplainable. He was ordered to surrender by a German officer who pushed a machine pistol into his stomach. Although overwhelmingly outnumbered and facing almost certain death, Staff Sergeant Parker, pretending to comply with the order, began slowly to unsling his submachine gun from his shoulder. Then with lightning motion, he brought the muzzle into line and riddled the German officer. He turned upon the other Germans, firing and shouting to the other Americans to seize the enemy's weapons. The recommendation goes up the chain of command, gets endorsed at every level: battalion, regiment, division, corps, army, supreme headquarters. Everyone who reads it endorses it. Everyone who investigates confirms it. This actually happened. This insane, impossible thing actually occurred. 1 man, 92 enemies, 60 seconds, 21 dead, and James Parker standing in the middle of it all, laughing. The war ends 4 months later. Germany surrenders May 8, 1945. The killing stops. The survivors go home. James Parker is one of them. Sully is one of them. Chen is one of them. Willis is one of them. Morrison is one of them. Eddie Morrison recovers from pneumonia in a hospital in England, gets sent home in March, lives. They survive because Parker showed them how, because Parker refused to let fear make his decisions, because Parker walked toward the things that scared him until they stopped being scary. September 5th, 1945, the White House, Washington, D.C. President Harry Truman places the Medal of Honor around James Parker's neck, the highest decoration, the rarest award. Given only for actions above and beyond the call of duty. Given only when a man risks everything for others. Given only to heroes. Truman looks at Parker and says something that becomes famous. "I would rather have this medal than be President of the United States." Parker looks back at him, doesn't smile, doesn't celebrate, just responds with absolute honesty. "Mr. President, I'd rather have my friends back, but since I can't, I'll make sure this medal means something." Truman asks what Parker will do now. Where will he go? How will he use his fame? Parker already knows the answer, already decided. Go home, help the men who came back, that's all. That's enough. He rejects book deals, rejects the lecture circuit, rejects Hollywood offers, rejects political opportunities, rejects everything that would turn his Medal of Honor into currency. He takes a job with the Veterans Administration, Pittsburgh Regional Office, entry-level clerk, the same kind of work he did before the war at Morrison's Hardware. His wife Margaret doesn't understand at first. "You're the most famous man nobody knows. You could do anything, be anything. Why go back to being a clerk?" "Because I know how to help veterans navigate paperwork," Parker says. "I know what they need. I know what they're owed. And I know how to cut through bureaucracy to get it for them. That's useful. That matters. The rest is just noise." He works for the VA for 27 years, processes disability claims, helps combat veterans get benefits, rises to division chief through competence and dedication, never talks about the Medal of Honor, never talks about Holtzheim. When people ask, he shrugs it off. "Did my job, that's all." One afternoon in 1965, a Korean War veteran walks into Parker's office. Sergeant Roy Mitchell, 28 years old, 2 tours, Purple Heart, honorable discharge. PTSD, claim denied twice by the VA. Mitchell is barely holding it together. Shaking hands, won't make eye contact. Flinches at loud sounds. Parker reads the denial letters, sees the problem immediately. The forms are filled out wrong. Medical terminology is incorrect. The veteran's own testimony undermines his case because he doesn't know how to describe what's happening to him. The VA isn't rejecting him because he doesn't deserve help. They're rejecting him because the paperwork doesn't prove he needs it. Parker spends 6 hours with Mitchell, rewrites the entire application, knows exactly what language the VA needs to see, knows exactly what documentation will support the claim, knows exactly how to translate Mitchell's combat experience into bureaucratic language that triggers approval. 3 months later, Mitchell's claim is approved. Full disability, medical coverage, therapy, support. Mitchell comes back to thank Parker, asks why Parker spent 6 hours on a stranger's paperwork. Parker doesn't mention the Medal of Honor, doesn't mention Holtzheim, just says, because someone helped me once. Now I help you. That's how it works. Mitchell asks who helped Parker. Parker thinks about Sully pulling him through fights, Chen taping his broken ankle, Willis learning to be brave, Morrison fighting when he was terrified. All the men who survived because they helped each other. We all help each other, Parker says. That's the only way any of us make it home. It's the same lesson he learned at Holtzheim. You don't survive alone. You survive together. And survival doesn't end when the shooting stops. It continues. Every day. Every veteran who needs help. Every claim that needs processing. Every man trying to find his way back to normal life. Parker processes 1,500 disability claims in 27 years. Helps veterans get benefits worth millions of dollars total. Never asks for recognition. Never keeps score. Just does the work. The same quiet, invisible competence he showed at Morrison's Hardware before the war. Sully visits every year, drives up from Brooklyn. They sit in Parker's backyard and drink beer and talk about the men who didn't come home. Sully is 53 years old, working the docks, 6 kids, good life. You saved my ass 100 times, Gramps. I wouldn't be here without you. Chen becomes a cardiac surgeon, sends Christmas cards for 46 years. Every card says the same thing. Thank you for teaching me that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's what you do while you're afraid. Morrison names his son James, after you, because you showed me I was braver than I knew. Willis stays in touch too, writes letters, visits when he can, tells Parker about his life, his family, his job, his struggles, always ends with the same sentiment. You taught me to walk toward the things that scare me, changed my whole life, made me a better man. Thank you. Parker reads these letters and cards and feels something he won't name. Pride, maybe, satisfaction. Knowing that the war wasn't just destruction, that something good came from it, that the men he led survived, that they learned, that they're living good lives because he showed them how to be brave. In 1970, the 588th Parachute Infantry Regiment holds a 25th anniversary reunion. 14 men from Company C attend. They're old now, 50s and 60s. Gray hair, soft bellies, reading glasses. Hard to believe these were the young paratroopers who jumped into France and Holland and Germany. Sully raises a glass. We're old men now, Gramps, but we're alive. And we're alive because of you. Chen adds his toast. Physical stature means nothing. What matters is refusing to quit. We carry those lessons every day. Parker listens. Doesn't toast himself. Toast them instead. You're alive because you didn't quit. I just showed you where the door was. You walk through it yourselves. That's your courage, not mine. The years pass. Parker retires from the VI in 1972. 56 years old. Full pension, good benefits. He and Margaret live quietly in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, not far from where he grew up. Same steel town, same working-class neighborhood. Same invisible life he lived before the war. The Medal of Honor hangs in a case somewhere. Visitors ask about it. Parker changes the subject. In 1990, he's diagnosed with cancer, lung cancer, non-smoker, genetic, bad luck. The doctors offer aggressive treatment, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. Parker is 74 years old. He's lived longer than most men from his generation, longer than most men from Company C, longer than the men he killed at Holtzheim. He's had bonus years already. He refuses aggressive treatment, accepts palliative care, makes arrangements, says his goodbyes, spends his last 2 years putting his affairs in order and spending time with his family. In 1991, a local newspaper interviews him. Young reporter, 25 years old, doesn't understand war, doesn't understand what Parker did. Ask questions about Holtzheim, about the laughter, about the killing. What made you laugh at 92 armed Germans? Parker thinks about this, really thinks, tries to give an honest answer. I don't know. Maybe I was crazy. Maybe it was the only sane thing left to do. Fear does strange things, makes you act in ways you can't predict. I'd made a promise to myself after Malmedy, never surrender, rather die fighting. So when that German put his gun in my stomach and screamed at me, I knew I was dead either way. Might as well die laughing. The reporter asks if he has any regrets. Parker nods. Yeah, that it came to that. War makes you do things. You live with them after. 21 men died in 60 seconds. I think about them, wonder who they were, what they could have been. They were somebody's sons, brothers, maybe fathers. I killed them, and I'd do it again because I had to. But I regret that I had to. November 20th, 1992. James Parker dies at home. Margaret is holding his hand. His daughters are there. Susan and Patricia. Good women, good lives. They've taken care of him through the cancer, through the pain, through the slow decline. He's ready to go, ready to rest. His last words are for Margaret. Tell Michael I wasn't scared. Michael is 76 years old now, living in Florida, hasn't seen his brother in 2 years. But he knows what James means. The lesson from childhood, the lesson about fear being a tool, about walking toward the things that scare you. James lived that lesson his entire life, walked toward fear from age 22 until age 76. Never stopped, never quit. Even death couldn't make him afraid. They bury James Parker at Arlington National Cemetery, Section 35, Grave 23734, among the heroes of every American war, military honors, flag-draped coffin, 21-gun salute, taps. The ceremony is simple, dignified, exactly what Parker would have wanted. At the funeral, Margaret Parker gives the eulogy her husband would never give himself. She talks about the man nobody knew, the man who came home from war and never stopped serving, the man who helped 1,500 veterans over 27 years, the man who turned down fame to do paperwork because paperwork saved lives. She ends with something James told her once, late at night, lying in bed, talking about the war in the rare moments when he let himself remember. He said, at Holtzheim, I had two choices, die on my knees or die fighting. I chose fighting. But that's not courage. That's just math. Real courage is what came after. Coming home, helping others, showing up every day for 27 years to process claims for men who can't fight the bureaucracy themselves. That's harder than 60 seconds of combat. That's the fight that never ends. Margaret looks at the flag-draped coffin, at the Medal of Honor citation engraved on the memorial program, at the men who survived because of James, at the veterans whose lives he changed with nothing but patience and paperwork. That was my husband, she says, not the sergeant who laughed at death, the man who spent 27 years teaching others how to live. That's the mission he chose. That's the mission he completed. Sully places a hand on the coffin, whispers, mission accomplished, Gramps. You brought us all home. Every single one of us. The bugler plays taps. The rifles fire 21 times. The flag is folded and presented to Margaret. James Parker is laid to rest among heroes. But his real legacy isn't in Section 35, Grave 23734. It's not in the Medal of Honor citation or the fitness center named in his honor. It's in the 1,500 veterans he helped, in the men whose claims got approved because Parker knew how to navigate the system, in the families who received benefits because Parker spent 6 hours rewriting an application. It's in Sully's 6 children, in Chen's surgical patients, in Willis's son James, in Morrison's grandchildren who'll never know their grandfather almost died at Holtzheim, but didn't because a 5'5" hardware store clerk refused to surrender. That's James Parker's true monument. Not marble, not bronze. Living people, living well. Living because he showed them how. The funeral ends, the mourners leave, the groundskeepers fill the grave, and James Parker rests among heroes, having earned something rarer than the Medal of Honor. He earned the right to be forgotten by history and remembered by the people whose lives he saved. Not just at Holtzheim, not just in the war, but every single day for 27 years after. That's the lesson. That's what James Parker taught us. Heroes don't need fame. They need a mission. And when one mission ends, you find another. You keep serving. You keep helping. You keep showing up until there's nothing left to give. James Parker gave everything. In 60 seconds at Holtzheim, in 27 years at the VA, in 76 years of walking toward fear and refusing to quit. The legacy lives on in every veteran he helped, in every life he changed, in every person who learned from his example that courage isn't about size or strength or fame. Courage is about showing up every day. No matter how hard, no matter how invisible, no matter how long, James Parker showed up for 76 years, never quit, never surrendered, never stopped serving. Mission accomplished. Welcome home.